Ghislaine Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, now what started to happen is she had a deposition a couple years ago on a civil case from Virginia Gaffrey.
Yep.
And she thought that was going to be sealed because it was a civil case and that she had protections, whatnot. Unfortunately for her, they released a redacted version of this deposition, and it was pretty rough because it did explain some things. It did open up some things. You obviously see that there's something going on, and we're saying once again to get a lot of decisions done. How many people were blackmailed? How many politicians were blackmailed? People up apart. You know what I'm saying? Epstein was part of that whole kind of like let's get people on tape, massages, the whole 9 yards, and let's blackmail people. Epstein and Bill Clinton flew together. Maxwell confirms in a newly released deposition. There it is right now. It was in the Epic Times, but every single time I clicked onto the Epic Times, it was blocking me from going up.
Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't letting me look at it, but here it is. So it gets that going, Johnny. I couldn't get that out of there. But anyways, what I wanted to do, there's a Exhibit 6, which is a 400-page plus documentation. It was released, the deposition. We'll put that in the chat because I don't want to go through it. It's really big. What I did is I went to Technofog, which is one of the best Twitter sites if you want to go to, and there's a good thread, and Technofog kind of took out the good juicy points. I went over them and I looked at them. I can't pull it up. What's with my computer right now? But let's go to the Technofog Twitter, Johnny. I might have to read it off there, because the Technofog Twitter does have some really good stuff right here. We have Ghislaine Maxwell's unsealed deposition. Question here: did you invite Virginia Gaffrey to Epstein's house?
She denied it.
She came as a masseuse. I can't read that from here. It's too dark for me and stuff. I'm not asking the question. I can't even read it. It's too dark for me. But pretty much, once again, what Ghislaine Maxwell did in this deposition was she danced around a lot of things. She talked like a politician. She didn't necessarily admit the truth, but she did kind of insinuate. And she says, again, I repeat, she came as a masseuse. It's not coming up. Yeah. It's weird right now. Let's get on this thread, though, Johnny, because this thread does have a lot of good stuff. Which one was this one here? Okay. Did the massage therapist perform sexual acts with Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know what you mean by sexual acts.
Right.
Did she touch his penis? That's what I mean by sexual acts and whatnot. The other one, does Jeffrey Epstein like to have his nipples pinched during sexual encounters? I'm not talking about any sexual things when I was with him. So, once again, here comes the lawyer. He hears that, Virginia says, Jeffrey loves to get his nipples pinched when he's getting stuff done. So they're trying to pull this out. Maxwell was asked if a 17-year-old minor, Virginia Gaffrey, stayed at Maxwell's house in London. I cannot remember. Did you know she was 17 at the time of the trip? I didn't even know who she was on the trip. Kind of bullshitting. Yep. What now? What not? Tearing apart this deposition right here. And you could see there's some blackness, there's redacted names. Maxwell was asked about flying on Epstein's plane with a 17-year-old. How would I know that she was 17? She's shown on the flight logs saying Epstein GM and the minor Virginia Maxwell. How do you know the GM is me? So once again, we see on these flight logs, we see initials. There was GM a lot of time, meaning Ghislaine Maxwell. So now she's dancing around. How do you know it's me? How do you know it's me? I don't. Maybe it's not me. Like, she's just being broad and vague. She was grilled pretty hard by this lawyer, so it's good right there. They also redacted names, so you don't know who it is. Here's the next one. Okay. Remember those reports about Epstein being in possession of CDs and a lock safe and a number of tapes? Maxwell admitted to recording massages. Johnny, you got to read this one because I can't see it, whatnot. But this is really awesome here, fam. Look what she says. Can you read it?
It says, did you record messages at the house?
Massages.
No, it says messages.
Spell it.
MESSAGES.
Go ahead.
So he asked, did you record messages at the house? It's not my job. You did from time to time record messages? Hardly ever.
Yes. So they're talking about people on the phone recording stuff. She said hardly ever, right? So meaning that they've recorded people to keep to put them in compromising positions.
Right.
She said hardly ever. But she still admitted that they do this thing.
Oh,
that
that's weird. Yeah, this tweet says massages, but then if you look at the text, it says messages.
I think it's a mistake. I think it's massages that they recorded, but also too that they were recording messages from people so they confirm, like, we have you on video, we have you on audio, we have you on everything.
Well, I'm showing you what the documents say. This is the document.
Yeah. The next one.
So Technofog was wrong there. I don't see it. Next one on.
Okay, so here's another one.
So it says Maxwell was taking messages for girls who would call Epstein's house. One girl was 15.
Yeah, I don't know who she is. Your name is on the message. So you're there. You recorded the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Pretty much they just tried to corner Ghislaine Maxwell in every step of the way. There was another one.
But she didn't let them catch her. She just.
Not as much.
Not as much.
Not as much.
Yeah.
Hardly ever, she said, whatnot. She kind of implied stuff. There was enough. There was also questions that when, right here, the one right below it. It says Maxwell denies knowledge of how Epstein made his money. Right there. So this is a big one. Are you familiar with the Ghislaine Maxwell company? I never heard of that. So, he was using all these other business names, these entities to stash his money. There was also a time, and once again, the redacted names, we don't know exactly who. There was a lot of times talking about the Clintons in these documents over here. There was a lot of depositions going on. So,
but she denied Bill Clinton, period, being on the island, ever being on the island.
Yes, on the island.
Flat out denied that he was on the island. She also flat out denied that Virginia Giuffre was at her house ever, and she had nothing to say about the picture that was obviously there with Prince Andrew. And that she took that infamous picture with her and him and the hug. And she completely denied it. So she looks like a complete liar because you can't. She's like, well, I don't know if it's a real picture. And that to me was one of the most important things out of this whole thing, because it's like, well, what do you mean, Ghislaine? Like, it's right there. There's a freaking picture.
She danced around this whole thing. There was even a time when there was they asked, did Jeffrey Epstein ever told you he worked for the United States government? She's like, he never told that. He never mentioned that. She said, I don't recall that. You know what I'm saying? She danced around a lot of these questions. Once again, a lot of people didn't expect Donald Trump to be in office. They thought that Hillary Clinton would be, and there'd be a lot of protection from this stuff. So,
nope.
that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And Mueller, who was part of the FBI for many years, protected Jeffrey Epstein, had all this information, all these cases handed to him, and just kind of ignored it and moved away from it. But you can go through this whole deposition. It's we can put the exhibit in the chat. You can look at the whole thing if you want. There's a lot. It's like 400 pages right here. You can go through it and see the parts that are juicy to you, the parts you like. It's interesting. But once again, Ghislaine Maxwell thought that this would never see the day, the light of day. Thank you so much. The light of day. They thought that this was a civil case. It would be buried. It wouldn't come to information. But the judge says, nope, they deserve to see this. So we're going to put it through. They did redact it and put some names and dark them out so you don't know exactly what. There's certain times when you're saying, is it Bill Clinton? Is it not Bill Clinton? There's also two girls in this, supposedly throughout this deposition, that want to remain silent. You know what I'm saying? That don't want their name to be anonymous. They don't want to be shown or be seen. So there are other names redacted. You have to think, it was a Jane Doe 1 and a Jane Doe 2, I think. And so we don't know who they're talking about a lot of times when we see the redacted names. But it's in there. It's pretty juicy. We got this information. We weren't thinking we would get it. So now more trouble for the Clintons and the Democrats as they come along, because that's what they're trying to pin this on right here. They're trying to pin this directly on the Clinton clan.
Who is trying to pin this directly on the Clinton clan?
I think...
Because I don't think Ghislaine is. Ghislaine has
Not Ghislaine. No, I'm talking about... this information's coming out right now with the election around. I think there are some pushes in the Justice Department saying, get this out there now, get this out there now. You know what I'm saying? This is out of the blue. Ghislaine Maxwell coming into custody out of the blue. So I think there are some people in the Justice Department that are maybe Trump loyalists of sorts. I don't know. Who knows? But that's kind of pushing it to make the Clintons look bad. Maybe we find out the real truth later. Who knows? Everything's in the dark here. We don't know. But it was kind of cool that this got released. And it's kind of interesting that we see this now, when we thought that we'd never get a chance to see this because it was a civil matter. But hey, we got it. So
yeah, I think it's interesting that she vehemently denied Bill Clinton's presence there. To me, that just shows a sort of like, no, like let's not go after them, coming from her. And I tend to wonder why, What are the political ties? What has she been threatened by? Like, what is the actual reason? She doesn't have a reason necessarily to protect a politician. I mean, they did this all in an effort to blackmail people to be able to have control over them. So the fact that she is protecting him, because we know his name was on the log multiple times, over 20 times, over 27 times, I think. And so it's like, why is she pretending that this didn't happen? Why is she denying a picture? Is this about incriminating herself, or does this go a little bit further than incriminating herself? Maybe if she incriminates other people, that's a no-no. Big people like the Clintons. Who knows? Obviously, this is, Donald Trump isn't clean in this either, but he's definitely not as far as involved as Bill Clinton.
I think a lot of people, there was a lot of people holding their breath saying, how was Trump involved in this particular deposition? And,
not in this deposition. Yeah.
Not in this deposition. So we'll see. We'll move forward with it, and we'll keep an eye on it. It's kind of interesting. I don't want us to go to sleep on the whole Ghislaine, Jeffrey Epstein situation. We have to keep an eye on what's going on with that. Remember, there were children involved. This is pedophilia, and it needs to be dealt with. So I hope we get some clarification, and some people go to jail. Whoever's guilty, whoever's the guiltiest. Really, whoever committed the most atrocities right now, and they get locked up, because it is kind of disgusting.
Well, she denied having anything to do with any child trafficking or any of that, which the evidence says otherwise, Ghislaine. So it's kind of like,
well, one of the arguments is that this deposition shouldn't be released until after the criminal case, because this is going to slant people's opinions about her, and she'll never get a fair case. She'll never get a fair jury. So that's what the lawyer was arguing. Like, we can't release this now. She don't have a fair chance to defend herself come July 2021 when the case is set, the criminal case is set. So we will see. But they released it anyways. So they're like, sorry, you know what I'm saying? And,
well, it's two separate cases. So that's...
It is. But once again, this could have a factor on trying to get a fair jury, is what they're saying. And it's going to... How can she ever get a fair jury right now if we put this out there?
Yeah, but how can anybody ever get a fair jury if they did what they did? So, I mean, I think the information to the public is obviously more important than...
Yeah, well, it's out there, so interesting. We'll see what happens.